New Zealand is unarguably a beautiful place. So unarguable is this that the country has a thriving tourism industry. Its flora and fauna draw in many visitors to its national parks, both domestic and foreign. This is the same story at this place, Cave Creek, and this rather unassuming viewing platform. It offers views down the creek 30 metres below. Viewing platforms are relatively common occurrences at beauty spots, and the one at Cave Creek looks just like any other. On the 28th of April 1995, 18 people would walk onto the platform taking in the sights, but 14 of them, this would be their final act. The platform would show its true colours, plunging all aboard into the ravine below. Today we're looking at the Cave Creek disaster. My name is John and welcome to Plainly Difficult. This video wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for my YouTube, Patreon and Ko-fi members. Thank you so much for your financial support, and if you'd like to support the channel financially, then you can from just £1 per month. And as always, the links as well as all my merch links will be in the pinned comment below. Background. This is the National Park of Paparoa. It is situated on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. It spans a 430 km squared or 170 square mile area, and although officially opened to the public in 1987, its beginnings as a park goes way back to the 1970s. Regardless, in the early 1990s, the Department of Conservation set out a plan for one of its areas called the Cave Creek Concept Plan. This would encourage visitors to view the cave and karst areas, often overlooked by visitors. This was because viewing these areas from the ground was far less spectacular than looking down into it. A viewing platform was suggested in the 1992 plan. This would be designed and constructed in 1994 with a small track running up to the platform. The hope was that the platform would result in visitors not going off tracks and sticking to the authorised walking areas, as vast parts of the surrounding area had been trampled by visitors. Anyways, the platform was designed as such. The platform foundation was made up of 3 rows of wooden fence posts, totalling 11. They varied between 110 and 140 millimeters in diameter and were driven directly into the ground as piles. The distances between each of the parts was not uniform and looked rather scattered in each of their 3 rows. Nailed to the piles were 3 timber bearers. These were 150 by 50 millimeters. However, during construction, it was found that 3 of the piles were not aligned to the bearers. As such, packing wood was used to make up the misalignment. Attached at right angles to these were the 7 200mm by 50mm timber joists, and on top of the joists were the timber decking planks. The whole ordeal was held together with nails, mainly 100mm in length. Some were installed end-nailed and others were installed skew-nailed. Now, I'm not a woodworking boss man, as you can see here from my railway sleeper catastrophe. Anyways, the platform was built off-site in kit form and helicoptered in. Final finishing was done on site, where the packers were added in to cover up the inconsistent pile placement. To finish off the project, concrete steps were added with timber treads, and a timber handrail was also added to stop people just walking off over into the ravine. The platform resulted in a cantilever structure defying gravity above the some 30-metre drop below. The total project, including the platform, approach track, preparation and other associated works, came to 11,000 New Zealand dollars. It had a maximum capacity of 5 persons, however no sign was ever installed on site. The engineer who designed the platform was not an engineer, instead he was a mechanic, and after its installation in 1994, nothing at all would ever go wrong. The disaster. It is the 28th of April 1995, and today 20 Polytech students from the Tai Pultini College in Greymouth are visiting the National Park. Part of this visit involved walking up the narrow path up to the Cave Creek viewing platform. The tour group is led by a Department of Conservation Field Centre Manager and another Department of Conservation member. Another group from the college had gone up to the same spot the day before. Interestingly, a park worker had noticed that the platform was flexing under the weight of the people. This was reported to the centre manager, the same one leading the tour group, on the 28th. During the walk to the platform, a small group split off in the bush to view some other bits and pieces. This was a Department of Conservation member, the teacher from the college, and 3 students. They would catch up to the platform slightly later on. The crowd shuffled onto the platform around 11:25 in the morning. The number of persons on the platform was 18. Once the full weight of the bodies was on the structure, it suddenly leaned to a 30-degree angle and slid off its supports down into the creek below. So quick was the event that the only noise heard among the creek was a short burst of screams and a massive crash. The site's remoteness would prove to be fatal. Shortly after the collapse, the second group reached the place that the platform had once been situated. Seeing the destruction, they ran to the group's vehicles to try and find help from the road. Seeing the keys not in the vehicles, the DOC officer went to the scene of the collapse, and a student ran along the road with a note with information describing the accident. By roughly 12:15 p.m, the student managed to phone the police at Greymouth. Understandably, because of the remoteness of the platform, the first responders would experience a very tough time trying to assist the survivors. The first responder to reach the site was a Greymouth police officer. They arrived on foot, reaching the survivors 2 hours after the collapse. Ambulances dispatched from Greymouth and Westport reached the road nearest the platform first, followed by helicopters from the Royal New Zealand Air Force. This was dispatched from Christchurch. Of the 18 aboard the platform, only 4 would survive. Of the dead, 13 were students. The 14th was the visitor centre manager, the same one who had been informed the day before of the unusual flexing of the platform. He apparently was planning to look at this on his fateful trip. In the immediate aftermath, all other structures owned by the Department of Conservation were inspected, and of the over 500 checked, 65 would be closed for immediate remediation work. Later on, a memorial plaque was revealed on the site in April 1996, and although the track was reopened shortly after, no new platform would ever be built. So needless to say, an investigation would have to follow. The investigation. So, in the aftermath, a commission of inquiry was set up, headed by District Judge Graham Noble. They were appointed on the 18th of May 1995. A preliminary meeting was held in Greymouth on the 14th of June, with the main hearing to start on the 11th of July 1995. In order to investigate the platform's demise, a scale model was built according to the as-built structure on site. During this, the serious design deficiencies came to light, especially after interviewing the 4 people who built the platform. One was quoted saying, "Not much was discussed about the way the platform was to be built. We had with us a post pile driver and a chainsaw. I do not think we measured out accurately where the posts were to go. It also came to light that there were no plans on site, and when the piles were driven into the ground, they were not at any set depth. Once completed and pre-construction of the actual platform, the workers used a chainsaw to cut the piles to the correct height. Now, the materials used for the platform to hold it together was also a major concern. The original design had called for bolts, but due to an error in forgetting the appropriate drill during the construction period, nails were substituted. This meant that during the failure, the structure actually pulled away from its piles, a bit like this. In addition, the platform wasn't attached to the steps, which would have acted as a counterweight. The lack of capacity sign also came into play, where 18 persons were allowed onto a structure only intended for 5. Finally, it was also discovered that the platform was designed by the department's mechanic, not a structural engineer. As such, the design was really lacking in any kind of stress testing. But that's not really the designer's fault. Instead, more of a systematic issue with the Department of Conservation as a whole, where budgets were so low that they couldn't afford the correct person for the job. The inquiry would surmise the collapse as such. From the engineering evidence, it is clear that the proximate or dominant cause of the collapse was that the platform was not constructed in accordance with sound building practice. This resulted in a total and catastrophic failure. So the platform was clearly not up to scratch, built by an organisation that was cutting corners to meet its budget constraints. And although these are excuses, it is inexcusable. There was no criminal repercussions for the state due to the law in New Zealand at the time not allowing the state to charge itself. However, compensation totaling over 2 million New Zealand dollars would be paid out to the disaster's victims. So that's my video on the Cave Creek disaster. It's going to be a 3 on my scale, and this is what I've got for my root cause analysis card. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. This is a Plainly Foot production. All videos on the channel are Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike licensed. Plainly Foot videos are produced by me, John, in the currently quite nice, warm corner of Southern London, UK. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching, and Mr. Music, can you play us out, please?